Okay, so this is the second part of Unit 2, 2B. What we're going to be looking at is how do we define corresponding alternate interior, alternate exterior, consecutive interior, consecutive exterior, and vertical angles. To start off, we have our diagram here. Let me zoom in for you just a little bit. So the way this works is we have pairs of angles, okay, that are cut by a transversal, which is just a math word to say a line that cuts two other lines. The important thing to remember is that everything about that I'm about to tell you hinges on two lines being parallel. So two parallel lines that are cut by a third line called transversal. Okay, so everything we're going to talk about depends on these two lines being parallel. The way that we can signify that in a drawing is either we'll tell you, hey, these two lines are parallel, or we'll draw this symbol. It'll be double triangles. On there, and that signifies and lets us know that these two lines are parallel, and this obviously is our transversal. So talking about the angles that get formed when this transversal is drawn. So corresponding means in the same position, just at a different location. So our corresponding angles are A and E, B and F, C and G, as well as H and D. And we'll see those relationships right here. So when we say they're equal, we mean they're literally equal to each other. So that means if A is 120, then E is 120. Okay? It's just that basic. So again, corresponding just means same location, just in a different area. Okay? Alternate interior angles, meaning they're on the inside of these two lines. So if we think of these two parallel lines as being like a brick wall right here, and this being our street down the middle, F and C are inside of the two walls on the street. So F and C are equal to each other, as are D and E. So let's watch. Let's see what we can do. So I know that E is 120 and E is an alternate interior angle of D. So if E is 120, that means D has to be 120. So alternate exterior angles work the same way. So again, if these two parallel lines are my walls, and this is the middle of my street, alternate exterior would be A and H. They're on the outside of the wall in the same location. And B and G. Again, on the outside of the wall in the same location. So A and H are the same, and B and G are the same. So again, taking what we know, since A and H are the same, I know A is 120, that means H has to be 120 as well. So we've talked about corresponding, we've talked about alternate interior and alternate exterior. So now let's talk about consecutive interior and vertical angles. Consecutive interior, consecutive exterior, and vertical angles. So when we say consecutive, that just means one right next to the other. So consecutive interior angles are, again, angles that come right after the other that are inside the street area, because again, these two parallel lines are my walls, and so interior is inside. The thing about consecutive angles, let me write this down. You need to remember this fact. So consecutive angles add to 180 degrees. Okay, so consecutive angles add to be 180 degrees. So my consecutive interior angles are D and F and C and E. So let's take a look. I know that, I'm sorry, D and I wrote this relationship wrong. Sorry about that. C plus E equals 180. And we also have E and F equal 180. And C and D are equal to 180. So if we take a look, we can see that since C plus D has to equal 180, that means C has to be 60. And again, since E and F have to add together to be 180, that means F has to be 60. All right? And that holds up because we just said that alternate interior angles are equal to each other. C has to equal F. C is 60, and F is 60. So consecutive exterior angles again, talking about angles that are outside of my wall. So again, my two parallel lines are my wall, and we're looking for exterior, angles that are outside of my wall, but that come right after another. So that means that angle B plus H equals 180. A plus G equals 180. And A plus B equals 180. And also G plus H equal 180. So again, applying that, I know that 120, G plus H has to equal 180. If I know this is 120, that means this has to be 60. And again, 120, A plus B has to give me 180. So I know this has to be 60. And if we check, we said that alternate exterior meaning outside of that brick wall. So B and G have to be equal to each other. Since they're alternate exterior angles, by definition, they have to be equal to each other, and that holds up. 60 and 60. So a brief review about vertical angles. For vertical angles, we just had, let me find my straight edge. I couldn't find my straight edge, so I'm using my checkbook. So vertical angles are formed when any two lines cross. All that it's saying to us is that angles that are across from each other are equal to each other. So let's number our angles. So vertical angles would basically tell us that 1 is equal to 3 and 2 is equal to 4. Okay, and those angle relationships. So these black angles equal each other and the red angles equal each other. Now, if we take a look at our previous diagram and see if that's true, what we have is C and B are vertical. They're both 60, so that works. A and D are both vertical. They're 120, so that works. G and F, they're vertical. They're 60, so that works. And then E and H are vertical. So that works as well. They're both 120. So that holds up.